All right, many thanks for still being there. Of course, it's still Rise and Shine Daily, and we were having several conversations on, some of the issues being raised on the front pages of our national dailies, and we still need to talk more about some of these issues. But joining us to analyze them is Citizen Matthew O'Connor, who is the founder and CEO of Open Forum, Akwa Ibom State. Good morning, and thank you so much for being part of our show.
Good morning, Janice.
Yeah.
Good morning, Ria. Good to be here.
Good morning.
Yeah. Good morning, fellow citizens, and good morning, humanity.
Okay, good morning, humanity. And of course, all what we are saying here is towards humanity as well. But this is just to let you know that since we're still talking on the papers, we'll still open up our phone lines so you can be part and parcel of the conversation. But very quickly now, let's look at one story that has trickled down from even last week on the national dailies to this week. And that's talking about purported, plots for an interim government. I remember last week we saw that the Defense Department of Security State Services, now the DSS, said that there is a purported plot, to bring up an interim government. And here we have, the papers telling us that the military has vowed crackdown on security threats and is warning IPOP as well. And it further says that nobody should threaten the integrity of the Nigerian democratic process. So where does that leave us? I know that some people have also said that, look, from the outcome of the 2023 elections, especially that of the presidency, which was on the 25th of February, that a lot of things seems not to be in place in terms of even the constitution that, outlines how a president should become a president in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And I want to state categorically that the FCT and that 25% getting of the FCT is one of such, requirements. So a lot of people still feel that because the FCT was not won by the president-elect and the person of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, then there shouldn't be an inauguration on the 29th of May.
Well, let's start from the press statement by the DSS.
Yes.
I found that statement unnecessary when it came on, because the DSS should not be given to giving press releases. They are supposed to act. It's a secret, the most secret security agency you can ever think of. They have their likes outside, the CIA, the FBI, the whatever other countries you call them. They don't wear uniforms, so you can identify who is a DSS official. And if I'm not wrong, I'm not even sure that DSS is supposed to be the right term by their constitutional name. Supposed to be State Security Service, SSS. That's a discussion for another day, by the way. But we are now so used to DSS. No problem about that. But what is supposed to be their work? They investigate. Any of them can be a staff with you here. You wouldn't even know. Yes, getting information and passing it on, and the next moment people are picked up. Any of them can be a trader in the main market or Pananda market or any market at all, anywhere in the country. And what do? See what goes on. Find the bad people and give security report. It doesn't matter if it takes 5 years, 10 years to follow. Some of them are supposed to be in schools as students. What do? Find out this cultism, all these bad people, lecturers doing this and that. You wouldn't know. They just pass information, and someday somebody's invited, and you'll be assailed with lineup of reports about you. You wouldn't be able to say no. But what do we have? Press releases about something. There can be no interim government if the government in power does not sanction it. No individual, no political party, no aggrieved candidate can start off or ignite. I'm using term with all sense of responsibility. Even to ignite it. Why? Because if the issues you are raising is false, you are supposed to be picked up. But if you have been hurt and you are raising alarm on something that is constitutional, not just an allegation of things that will be difficult to verify, like election rigging. Election rigging is hard to prove. Because even the law will tell you must be able to show that it was done in massive scale to have affected the overall result. So that's why politicians try to rig election by all means, because come to court and prove is difficult. But where something involves constitutional breaches, it will be very easy. Very easy. Like you just raised the issue of 2/3 of the 36 states and Abuja. And some people will be saying, oh, that case had been settled by the appeal court or the Supreme Court, as it may. Yes, it will have been settled. But there are times you revisit things that have been settled. After all, there are some judgments that have been made, even by the Supreme Court, and they will say, don't quote us over this. If I'm not wrong, like the 12 to 30 of 1979 elections, Awolowo, Shagari era. Yes, we need to, I appeal, we may have to fact check on that.
Yeah.
Is it possible that 12 to 30 of 19 was this? And is it true that the Supreme Court said, don't quote us on this? So anything constitutional, we all have to be careful because our life depends on it. So press release that people are planning, no. After all, leading to the general elections, it was leaders of the APC who were against what was going on within their party that were raising alarm. That some people are planning to make sure this thing does not work so that we go for interim government. People are doing the change of Naira to frustrate their candidates. Lot and lot of accusations, and they even went to court. And nobody raised alarm.
But how is it possible
Yes.
that, you know, for the past 2 weeks running now, the DSS came out to give that press release? And up till this moment as we speak, even though they told us that, you know, they know names,
Yes.
they know the perpetrators, we have not, as Nigerians, seen these names
Or heard.
or heard of the perpetrators.
Yes. It's as simple as, was the central bank governor, Godwin Emefiele, not declared wanted for funding terrorism? Who made that statement? The DSS. Is Godwin Emefiele not back to the country? After that time that we couldn't find him and Naira, the change had gotten to a next level and we were all suffering and crying. Is he not back? Has he been arrested? In fact, when the statement was made, where was Godwin Emefiele? He was with the president, I think in London. You allow somebody you had suspected, you have facts about him sponsoring and funding terrorism, and you allowed him to travel with Mr. President? Are we joking? So, there are things that we should be able to rise above as a country. Every institution must work. And when you find any institution that is not productive or is not working as it should, you just note that politicians are likely or have likely infiltrated, because wherever you find a typical politician who is not a patriot, they must do things to give them advantage, either to intimidate or to show that we have the structures. And what does that entail? Reining people in. Don't talk. The issue of the interim government, it wasn't even a statement that was made as there must be an interim government. It was Ahmed Dati who granted one of the most talked about interviews now. And what he was hammering on was, if the president-elect did not meet constitutional requirements, it will go against the constitution to do swearing in. For me, that is supposed to have kick-started conversation. Real conversation. What do you mean? For one, this administration cannot do interim government. I didn't even foresee that. So if there are constitutional issues that should be addressed, what should be the approach? You fall back to the court. After all, the candidates, not just Obi, who is virtually most talked about of the obedient movement, who people never saw such a thing coming. In fact, some people had believed that it's impossible for any third force to emerge in the country. But boom, from nowhere, the obedient movement came up and it became the the latest bride before the elections, and now people are saying, oh, thank God, elections are over. But is it all over? It's not all over because these people are in court. So constitutionally, the courts have 180 days to dispense the case before them. That is a very long time, which will accommodate swearing in. And then if after swearing in, the governors, the presidents will be doing their case from offices. That for me, I wished, in fact, it was talked about when the Electoral Act was being worked on, that electoral matters should be settled before swearing in.
Yeah. Exactly. So that once the next person comes on, you know that it is governance.
Yes, it is governance. But that was not to be. Why? Because a number of persons know how they got into office. And if you don't take advantage, maximize the advantage of being in office, whatever rigging that will bring you in, you won't be able to withstand doing it from outside. Even though sometimes incumbents are the successful ones, most often, they are the most successful people. Like this election, the states where you find incumbents losing are not as small as where the incumbents have been able to see their successors. And what do? They will do everything humanly possible to see that they retain power, not for the benefit of people, but because we've been in power in the country called Nigeria is a license to loot, a license to live a life of impunity, a license to become an emperor, and then the hangers on whose only contributions in life are just to do propaganda, go on campaigns, and repeat whatever the candidate says, or that person becomes elected, whatever he says, even if it doesn't make sense, they'll keep on re-echoing it because they don't know how to think, they don't know how to do, they cannot contribute. Even when governance starts, how many people write proposals that can go through simple scrutiny? They don't.
Citizen Matthew O'Connor, I think I would like to, revert back to 1993. I like using that as a reference point when the issue of interim government is being mentioned. And remember how Chief MK Abiola won the 1993 election, and the regime of Babangida annulled that election. And at some point, there was an interim government, and that was when it was handed over to Chief Ernest Shoneko. And he formed that, he handled the interim government until when we had the first democratically elected government that saw...
Not quite, it was overthrown.
Okay, he was overthrown.
Yes.
Okay, but...
By Abacha.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Less than 120 days or thereabout.
But then again, there was an interim government.
That was interim government.
Point,
yes.
At that point, didn't we know that it was unconstitutional?
What happened in 1993 will live with us forever. Why? We had the fairest, most transparent election in the history of this country. And the method used could be said to be primitive, but that shows the level of our consciousness then, which has not even changed now. It's even worse. We're trying to use technology to do election to make it more transparent, and some persons felt they must do somersault at the cliff. So, IBB had come up to say that he was forced by those around him to frustrate the final announcement. Remember, there were announcements, and MK Abiola, I happen to share the same initials with him. I am MK Matthew Kofi O'Connor. Yeah. So, MK Abiola was coasting home to victory across. In fact, even one in Kano State where Tofa, his major contender. We had the SDP and the NRC. So, and some people felt they don't want him. And there are issues that have just started coming up now that I never knew until these elections. That some foreign powers were also interested in that, because some people, according to reports, is there online, you probably can verify, that, they said MKO had some drug dealings, and because some countries are against drug dealers, they had to do that. I never heard that. Nobody ever heard that. But let's focus on IBB. IBB stopped that election, stopped the announcement, and NADECO and other pro-democracy groups came up to try to make sure that the mandate was given to MK Abiola, which was not to be, until the interim government which, going by the way we are operating, Babangida was saying that once the worst thing to happen to this country is actually not the worst thing to have happened to this country. He stepped aside. And that term, people were querying the term. Why do you say step aside? It means you are likely to come back. Change that term. The man had ways with words. And he had that charisma so much. He said, I'm stepping aside. He stepped aside and brought Eneshonekon, a Yoruba. And unfortunately...
So the question is, wasn't it unconstitutional at the time that happened?
Military administration itself is unconstitutional.
Yes, we know that.
It's illegal. In fact, if we were to be a country of discipline, all those people that did overthrow, in 29 years, we have about 5 administrations, military. They were doing the election by shooting, killing people and taking over. That was the election with the military. They should be tried. It is against the people. So it was an illegal government.
And it birthed an illegal government.
Pardon?
It birthed an illegal government.
Yes, but that illegal government that it birthed was even better than the uniform people when it comes to leadership. It's like you have security men here, don't you, in this station? It's like security men coming in here and telling you, Janice, out. Oh, yeah, out. Engineer, you out from here. And they take over this place. What do you think they are going to do? But shockingly, amazingly, the things the military have been able to do for this country is monumental. Can we create states? How many industries have civilian governments built across? But look at what the military did. They did a lot because they are also human. That aside, the interim government was overthrown. Shonekon was overthrown by Abacha, who IBB is supposed to have retired because he knows. He should have known the nature of Abacha, the capacity of Abacha. So leaving Abacha was like, once I go, don't worry. And unfortunately, MK Abiola had rapport with the military so very much, and it was even speculated that he was part of the arrangement for Abacha to even take over so that he would now do handing over to him. But I quite remember, I can never forget that picture. 1993, after the overthrow, MKO visited Abacha. It was a 3-seater seat. I think Abacha sat on that extreme there. MKO sat here, and he shifted about twice, trying to get close to Abacha to whisper to him. I can't forget that image. He actually met Abacha, and the thinking was that, they have talked about, you're going to do the proper thing now. And Abacha, the first thing was to take over his vice president, King Gibe.
These are a lot of issues because
Yes.
it's important that if we are people that want to move forward, we must learn to lean back on history for us to be able to go forward. And when we are hastily having the conversations of, an interim government is unconstitutional, we are currently surrounded with a lot of problems and flaws around this particular transition. There's more people questioning the validity of the process that brought the president-elect Bola Tinubu into, that position of being the president-elect. There are more people pushing that the inauguration shouldn't hold for him and the APC on the 29th of May. We are saying if these pushes continue, what is the fate of the country if this is not announced between now and May 29? Are we really sure that although we all say that the Constitution does not give any backing for an interim government, that it will not and cannot happen? Because I think in having these conversations, we should differentiate that there is a difference between having an interim government and a coup happening in the country. Those are two different things because an interim government can be sustained by a civilian who is just holding the fort for things to be stabilized before transition is made. So, but there's more leaning on, it's not constitutional, it's not going to happen, it cannot happen. While we are all saying it cannot happen, there is a lot of problem on the ground. How are we solving it to make sure that an interim government does not see the light of day?
And transition is seamless and smooth.
The truth of the matter is that Nigeria has been throwing up its worst as our best. We have so much knowledge in this country, even right in this studio, that we can prefer possible solutions. One of the way forward is for our constitutional lawyers to really look at the Constitution. The framers of the Constitution never envisaged that there could be a situation where either the elections could not hold and then the sitting government will be time barred.
Sorry, I'm going to cut you short.
Okay.
Now, when you even talk about framers of the Constitution, looking at the Constitution again, let's not forget the Constitution, the 1999 Constitution, is a product of the military regime. And for the longest of time, there has been serious clamoring for that Constitution to be reviewed.
By the grace of God, I was the secretary to the Position Paper Committee for the BB people for the Constitution amendment that was done 2021, which up to today, the key things are supposed to have been done have not been done.
Have not been done.
But be that as it may, no matter how flawed our Constitution is, which is actually a decree, one of the first deceit is that we the people, it wasn't we the people, it was the military. Some persons were put in the room and they did that, adopting from former things and writing it out.
I think we'll just need to hold you on there and take this call. Let's hear from Nigerians. Hello, good morning. What's your name and where are you calling us from?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Charles by name. I'm calling from Kogi State.
Charles, please can you turn down the volume of your television sets? Turn it down completely so that we have a smooth conversation. Go ahead. Charles from Kogi State. Okay.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Fantastic.
Okay. Yes. Good morning there.
Good morning.
I really appreciate this, your guest this morning.
Thank you.
I can see that he really understood exactly what the minds of the 50% of the youth in this country really wanted. The bottom line is, why must always this lacuna in the Nigerian Constitution? Why is there no provision for all these things before they happen? Why do we keep continuing the same process always? Now look at it. For the fact that the president-elect could not meet up 25% of the FCT, and it is in the Constitution, it's not even supposed to be announced as a winner. If he has not been announced as the winner, all these crises wouldn't be coming up. Now, it's not limited to only Nigeria now. I don't know if you have heard that man very well, your guest. Besides, I've read enough. Americans are now interested because they observe that the same thing that was done in 1993 is what is going to come up now. So I don't know. Is it that the media doesn't have a way they can have access to all these constitutional rights so that they will be clamoring over it even before election? So that everybody will be aware that this is what the likely problem could be. Okay, look at the case of the Kogi State then, during Audu. If there were to be a provision made down, Jayabilo wouldn't have been the governor of the state. He wouldn't have been the governor. But if now that he has been the governor, this is 7 years plus, what has transformed in that state till now? Because he didn't really fight for what the mandate he was given. These are things we are talking about. How does that cause this problem? And they call it a lacuna in the law. Why is it that every other developing nations have solutions for every problem made down? Why is Nigeria is always this problem?
All right, Charles, thank you so much. I think your point has been noted.
Thank you.
But over to you,
Yes.
Matthew O'Connor.
Let me just make a very quick one.
Yeah.
I commend the last caller. What happened in Kogi State wasn't a constitutional problem. It was still the problem of politicians. The governor-elect died. He had a running mate who was running on a valid ticket. The natural thing will have been the deputy governor-elect will have naturally assumed the position and then appoint a deputy governor. But because of interest and because of politics of religion and geography, the party decided that the deputy governor-elect cannot assumed that office, they had to go and do a nomination or brought somebody who was a distant whatever in a listing and just gave him the ticket, and the deputy governor-elect went to court and trust what people with power can do. So it's not even a reference that it was a lacuna.
The point is,
it was impunity.
Still talking, thank you very much. Yes. Still talking about lacunas in our constitution. Yeah. It means that, you know, when we have situations, our politicians begin to twist the law to their interests.
Exactly.
When it interests them, they twist the law to defend themselves and whatever it is they are trying to bring up as policies. But when it is against them, they want to quote the law the way it is. So where do we go to as it is?
Where we should go to is to have an enlightened citizenry. These people are able to get away because citizens are not enlightened and they are not conscious enough and they are not firm. Nigerians have been seen as a people that once you put pressure, throw something, a very critical matter on the front burner, in 3 days to 1 week, throw some other thing, they will leave this other very important one and run to the next one. That's an insult on who we are.
So is that not also threatening our democratic process?
No, it's beyond threatening. It's the worst thing. In fact, I think somebody called in to say we are not running a democracy. We are running civil rule that is being propelled by people who have made themselves permanent office holders, who are predominantly unproductive. Let's go to the Abuja issue. The Constitution says 2/3 of the 36 states and the FCT. Let's simplify it. We are looking for admission to university, and they say you must have 5 credits, including
English and maths.
English language or mathematics, or both.
And mathematics,
and.
not or.
No,
and.
And.
Yes.
And then you have 7 credits, excluding mathematics and English.
You go nowhere.
You go nowhere. My parents were not educated to the level of the consciousness now. At least my father could read. But guess who were the community leaders who made us as little children to be wondering at the wisdom of how our community was in peace? Our illiterate parents. They initiated the laws and they made sure they enforce it. If the day that you are supposed to go for road clearing in the community and you don't go, they will come to your house. It's either a goat or planting that they will cut, whatever penalty you are going to pay. So the issue of 25% has never been in contention because all other candidates before now, all other elected presidents before now scored 25% in the FCT. So we cannot live our lives at the mercy of lawyers, some of whom can be bought, or even the court, some of whom can be bought. We are to live our lives by the integrity of what we profess. Currently, we are in Easter, we are in Ramadan. The 2 major religious organizations in Nigeria are before their makers. Can they boldly pray that whatever God somebody calls, do unto me as I'm doing to Nigeria? Can our leaders pray that prayer? Even in our state, can our leaders lift up their hands and say, "Oh Father in heaven, do unto me as I'm doing to my state," let's say Akwa Ibom, or Kogi, or Lagos State, or Nigeria? Can our leaders pray that prayer now? I challenge the churches, I challenge the mosque to make this prayer I've just made a key element of whatever prayers that they conduct. And when they are running up the fast, and when the resurrection morning will come, let our leaders lift up their hands and let them re-echo these prayers.
Those are very serious things. Of course, when we also live on the bridge where we are saying, "Oh, are prayers that strong? Are they that important?" But a question before we just round up, just a tweet. We are looking at 25%. That is what is bringing up a lot of uproar. But when we are talking 25%, a lot of us are focusing on the 25% of the FCT. Does that really upturn the expected result? Because if we are saying, did he win 25% of out of the 36 states, but did not get the FCT, but got 25% of state votes and lost only the FCT. Does that have an effect? Does it make the person who won 25% of the FCT but did not have 25% in state elections to be, someone that can be said the winner? What is the mathematics that we are all missing? Because like you said, it's the requisite education that we all lack. What exactly are we fighting for? Is it just 25% of the FCT or 25% of the FCT and of the remaining 28 states?
And let's not also forget that the president-elect has more votes than the two other major contenders in this race.
The number of votes doesn't matter in an election. It's meeting the constitutional requirement. That's why American style, I love it. You can win majority votes, but there is what is called college votes, which will finally count. Trump did not have the majority vote. He became the president because of the college vote.
True.
There are some states who rely on a majority vote, but in a place like America, from what I've not been there, but I read a lot, I follow conventions a lot. State, depending on what you're bringing on the table, you have points. So whatever vote comes, okay, you state your equivalent is 2 points, you 1 point, and all of that after the elections will now count. State with 2 points, who won there? And it finally makes up to somebody with a less number of votes winning. The truth of the matter is that even if it is just that alone will have been enough to have said the election is inconclusive. But it goes beyond even that. It goes to the extent that votes were not fully collated, but the results were announced. What we should be afraid of is not even the fake news or inciting words. It is very inciting actions that have taken place
by public officers.
By public officers. But thank God for Nigerians, we are very peaceful. And it's difficult to rig election using technology. So whatever happens, running forward, we're going to make progress the way we have never thought before.
Yeah, definitely we'll make progress. I think that's the best way to land the conversation this morning. But we must say a very big thank you to you, Matthew Kofi Okono, founder and CEO, Open Forum, Akwa Ibom State. Thank you so much for your time.
Not just Akwa Ibom. Open Forum is an NGO.
Okay.
It's a global.
Global. Okay. Well,
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. This is where we draw the curtains on today's edition and episode of Rise and Shine. Let's remember that interim government is actually unconstitutional. But what Nigerians are asking for is not too much. What Nigerians are asking for is that public officers should do the right thing. If the Constitution is there as a guiding factor, then let us play by the rules of the game. My name is Janice Kobum, and we'll definitely see you again tomorrow.
My name is Uyai Aniek, and thanks for being a part of Rise and Shine today. Let's do this again tomorrow. But by all means, please do stay at peace.
Yeah, definitely. We leave you with Sports Central. Isaac and Blyden Ukem will be coming up next.